Hello, and welcome to the Original Rushman Show. On this show, we will be taking an historical look into the mystical, magical, musical world of Rush, highlighting the career of Rush as seen through the eyes of a Rush fan of over 45 years. So join me on this journey by subscribing below, and maybe you will discover the Rush that I know. All right, thanks for joining me for episode number 26 of the Original Rushman Show. The Trees. Oh no, not another controversial Rush song. In March of 1978, Rush were maligned in an article by Barry Miles. Just a few months later, they found themselves back in England to record their sixth album. And upon its release, the press was very anxious to interview the members of Rush about their new album. Did they ask them about the mesmerizing musical splendor of Hemispheres and the lyrical genius within? No. Were they interested in circumstances and its ties to England? Did they wonder how three musicians recorded the greatest rock instrumental ever written? No, they were only interested in a little allegory about some maple and oak trees fighting in the forest called the Trees. Upon the album's release, Neil told British music reviewer Jeff Barton a straightforward summary of the song. Neil said that the song is about a forest full of maple and oaks. The maples begin to get uptight because the oaks are growing too big and tall and are taking all the sunlight away from them. So they formed a union and endeavored to get the oaks chopped down to a reasonable size. From that point in time, it was like the music reviewers and journalists were playing the telephone game, because by the time it got around to a reviewer by the name of John Hamblett of, you guessed it, New Musical Express, those guys again, Neil reluctantly took on another interview from these guys, and the first question this guy asked, and I quote, is about the definite and resolute dictum against trade unionism and organized labor conveyed within the trees. Neil, in his Canadian way, instead of getting mad and raising Cain, said, I can assure you that that wasn't the intention. Initially, that song came about as a cartoon. I sat down after a gig somewhere and it came to me all of a sudden. This very vivid visual cartoon. It was the fastest song I ever wrote. I wrote it in about 5 minutes, actually. I suppose it's basically about the crazy way people act, Peart explained. This false ideal that equality they try and create. I simply believe that certain people are better at doing certain things than other people. Some people are naturally talented and they have a gift or whatever, and some people aren't. This doesn't mean that these people are greater human beings by virtue of that talent. It merely means they are more talented. In April and May of 1980, Modern Drummer magazine article, Peart was asked point blank if the song has a deeper meaning. No, he said, it was just a flash. I was working on an entirely different thing when I saw a cartoon picture of these trees carrying on like fools. I thought, what if trees acted like people? So I saw it as a cartoon, really, and I wrote it that way. I think that's the image that it conjures up to a listener or a reader. A very simple statement. Okay, so Rush did a series of promotional videos for this album. They had Circumstances, which we saw a couple of videos back, and now they have Trees, and they also did one of La Via Strangiato. But the unique thing about these promotional videos, unlike hundreds of other pre-MTV band videos, Rush is actually performing these live with no audience. And the unique thing is that they aren't lip syncing to the recorded song. So let's take a listen to the Trees and watch this video, maybe.
There is unrest in the forest, there is trouble with the trees, for the maples want more sunlight and the oaks ignore their pleas.
Have you ever heard a more appropriate use of wood blocks in your entire life? Have you ever heard wood blocks sound so beautiful in your entire life? Well, I haven't. And that was awesome. Now, whether or not there is some Randian influences that inspired this allegory of the trees, it doesn't rise to the level of fascism in any way. The Barry Miles article and subsequent interviews during this time period greatly affected Peart's future relationship with the press. It was this experience that changed the future of Rush. From this point forward, Neil began to distance himself from participating in most media interviews, leaving Getty and Alex to deal with the mostly inane questions journalists hurled at them. When talking about the Barry Miles interview, Neil said, "I just feel that it was basically dishonest. He represented us as fascist fanatics. We're not fascists. We're not racist. I was very upset when I read that article." And he said, in America, you call someone a fascist and it's the worst, you know? It's the pits. But in England, I now realize that in certain quarters, anyone who isn't a socialist is, by definition, a fascist. Finally, Neil would be straightforward and forthright in defining Rush once and for all. After this, Rush didn't listen to any more of the morass. He says Rush makes no secret of the fact that they don't align themselves with the socialist cause. They are, in fact, self-confessed capitalists. Rush are not racist. They are not nationalists. And they firmly believe, rightly or wrongly, that the extreme left are just as likely to implement an authoritarian government as the extreme right. Though we were deprived of a plethora of Neil Peart interviews, the ones that we do have are priceless. I always thought it was funny when an intellectual met Neil Peart, then quickly realized that they weren't as smart as a rock star. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the original Rushman Show. But before you go, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make a comment. Well, thanks for watching.